Hi, today we're looking at photographing birds on red berries. Now this is a rowan tree, and late summer it was absolutely full of gorgeous red berries. But before the field fares and the redwings arrived in the autumn months, all the local birds had already stripped the berries off. Rowan berries are the berries that go first, they're the most popular. Over the years I've tried various things. I've cut off sprigs of rowan berries, stored them in my garage back home, I put them in a bucket of water to hopefully keep them fresh. It didn't work, they just rotted. Perhaps the garage was too warm. There's several old derelict barns around here, so I've stored them in the barns where it's cooler, but then the mice just eat them, so it's never worked. So what I tried this year is I covered some of the berries with scrimming or netting. And what happened is the birds came and they ate all the berries elsewhere around it, but they left the ones obviously inside the netting, but also they left like this one here because it was so close to the netting. Perhaps they were intimidated by it, so they didn't touch those. But I noticed about 3 days ago they started to eat these berries here. So now what I'm going to do is take the scrimming off and then just go and put a hide up over there and just sit and watch. No idea what's taking them. Hopefully it's field fares and redwings, but it could be anything. And just been a way of keeping some berries for later on when the winter thrushes arrive. Okay, we're all set to go. The berries are looking nice over there. A couple of things to note. First of all, I'm going to put the hide up here, but before I put the hide up, I set the camera up and my camping stool, and I make sure that everything is aligned, and I do this before the hide. If I was to put the hide up first, I'd have the problem of if I need to move, I've got to move the hide, and it's not until you get behind the camera you can see what your background is going to be. So I line up on those berries. I'm happy with the background. I've got no white sky behind apart from a couple right at the top. I might try and bend the branch down in a second. I can go a little bit higher, but it still won't avoid that very top piece of skyline. But most of the berries have got greenery or autumn colours behind them. So now I can put the hide up over the top of this, but notice also the hide is against this bush. If I was to put the hide up in the open over here, there's less chance of the birds coming in. They'd be more nervous of the hide. If the hide is up against something, they don't notice it nearly so much. So it's important to have the hide not totally exposed. So that will do. This is the hide I use the most often these days. It's the Buteo single person hide. It's just so wonderfully quick to put up. It's made me lazy. No need to put any tent pegs in. It's not a nice day today. It's very miserable, drizzly, but there's no wind, so it's not going to blow around at all. I'll just go and see if I can bend a couple of those top branches down. Well, that's it. 3.5 hours later, nothing's coming at all. Hardly stopped raining. Hide's been perfect, hasn't dripped on me at all. Because there's so many apertures in it and stitching, the water does leak in, but it just runs down the walls, on the inside walls of the hide. It doesn't drip on your head at all. So I've been dry enough, but not very exciting. So I'm going to cover the berries back up. I can't come for the next 2 days, so I'll come back on Monday and try it again. Ideally, maybe I'll just leave it uncovered on Monday and perhaps come back, yeah, maybe in the afternoon, and come back to see if the berries are starting to disappear. Just show you one other thing. I didn't think to point this out earlier, but although I don't know what species I'm going to get in, if I look at the berries that were previously eaten or just to the side of the netting, I would say that's more likely, if I can get the autofocus to work, to be finches rather than thrushes. And that's because they've been squashed and eaten, whereas a thrush, whichever thrush species it is, would eat the entire berry and swallow it. A bullfinch would squash them and eat them, sort of mulch them up. So it's more likely a finch, but it doesn't really matter. Whatever bird I get in, I'm going to be happy enough to photograph it. Come back on Monday. So it's Monday morning. I've already taken the netting off the berries. Every time you put the netting on and take it off, you're knocking berries off. They're quite loose and they're dropping to the floor, so they're not going to last for forever, even if I don't get a bird coming in. I'm now going to leave it for about 2 hours and go off and do something else. Then I'll come back and see what's happening. And the only thing is, it would be nice if I knew whether the berries had been eaten during that 2 hours. Well, I have a cunning plan. I'm going to count them. There's 469 berries there. Now, it's a very accurate count, it's indisputable, so I'll go away and see if any have gone missing while I've been absent. When I got back to the hide after a couple of hours, there was still the same quantity of berries there, but I got in the hide anyway, and after about an hour, a robin came in and devoured a couple of berries. Not the most exciting subject. I'd rather have bullfinches or thrushes, but at least I got something. And he gave a little bit of song as well. That wasn't very successful. Long wait just for a robin to come in. I'd rather have a bullfinch. And so now I'm going to try something slightly different. But it's not unusual to fail. When you're photographing wildlife, I always say I fail 9 times out of 10. So you just got to enjoy sitting in hides and sitting around and waiting, which fortunately I do. But what we're going to try now is moving the berries from the area where they were, because that's a young forest just there, and bullfinches more inclined to shrubs and bushes. So I've seen bullfinches feed in this blackberry bush to my left, so I've moved the berries only about 30-40 meters up to here and just put a single sprig out. So here it is, just making use of an old tripod handle and just pushing the sprig in. And I've done this before, I know it works, just a question of sitting and waiting. I still don't think we're getting redwings or fieldfares or any other thrush. This is small birds because of the way the berries are being mulched up. But we'll put the hide up over there and sit in and try this. Fortunately, I enjoy sitting in hides. You see a lot more wildlife sitting quietly in a hide than ever you do walking about in the countryside. Things appear that you just wouldn't know were around unless you're sitting quietly in a hide. If it is bullfinches I've got coming in, well, I can hear bullfinches in the distance. It's a very recognisable whistle. It's a very plaintive whistle. It's one of those songs, it's easy to learn and easy to remember. So they're about, and they tend to go around in family flocks. So there might be half a dozen together. might be 2 or 3 males, 2 or 3 females. So if you get one bird coming to the berries, there's a good chance a couple of minutes later the other one will pop onto the berry. I'm using Olympus Micro Four Thirds here. This is a M1X camera body. It's the 300mm lens. No extender on it at the moment because I'm close enough. Now I make good use of the custom settings on this camera, so I've selected C1, which I know gives me continuous focus, 1600 ISO, and aperture priority. So I didn't have to wait in the hide very long before a robin came along, landed on the perch, made its way along, landed on the berries and grabbed one. And it's always nice to get a picture with a bird with its open bill and a nice bright berry at the end. The bullfinches also came in, a nice red male. Took up 2 poses. This is the first one, and the second pose was slightly more sideways on, so I regard that as the better picture. But once they're coming in, I would expect them to keep coming in until I run out of berries. But so far this year, this is all I've got, so I'm now going to show you some pictures I've taken on previous years. So these next few pictures are taken at the same location and using exactly the same technique. This is the female. Notice the background is a different colour. I'll show you the background just shortly. Quite often they come in 2s or 3s, so once one bird's arrived you can predict the next one is going to come in, and very frequently bullfinches will hover at the berries instead of landing, but you've got to be very quick, very alert to catch this. It's all over in a split second. This is my favourite hovering shot, but I do wish I'd got the camera a bit higher to include the full bunch of berries, but it's an almost impossible shot to get. But the green background is an artificial one. It's a bit of 8x4 plywood, and it's around 6 meters behind the bird, and it's got to be 8 foot by 4 foot in order to cover the area behind the bird. Thanks for watching.